Another aspect of listening is empathy. So let's talk about empathy for a little while. Sympathy is when I feel what you feel. So you might say, oh, my father died when I was 18. I know what that feels like. That's sympathy. Empathy is a loving act where you attend to the feelings of another, whether you've ever felt it deeply yourself or not. In my class, I've often asked students, tell me why you think you might be a good counselor or might not be. Some say, well, I've been through a lot of hard things in my life, so I think I'll be a good counselor because I can identify with people. Well, that might be true, but you know the danger of that is if I went through the death of a parent and you went through the death of a parent, I might assume that you feel the same way I feel, that it meant the same thing to you that it meant to me. And that's not necessarily true. If I've been insulted, I might process that in a whole different way than you. So actually having a same experience isn't necessarily helpful. People assume that to help a married couple, you have to be married. That's not really true. You can still ask good questions. You can still listen. You don't have to have things out of your own experience in order to help people. So we're going to focus on empathy because you will not be able to sympathize, to have the same feelings as your counselees all the time. And even if you do, you need to be careful of assuming that your feelings and theirs would be alike. There is a researcher in America named Brené Brown. She became exceedingly popular through a TED Talk where she talked about shame. I've gone and watched some of her talks and read some of the things she's written. It's interesting that in the course of her life and this fame that has come to her and studying these things, as I understand it, she has actually become a believer. In one little video that I've seen, drawn from one of her books, she talks about empathy. She draws from the writings of someone else, a nurse named Teresa Wiseman. She says that there are 4 attributes of empathy. So let's see if we can get these in our minds. Empathy, somebody comes and tells you their story. Empathy means, 1, can I see this from their perspective? Now the problem is, you may feel like their perspective is all wrong, that it's just dangerous, it's wrong. Why would I try to think like that? Well, because you can't understand what it feels like if you don't take their perspective. You don't have to agree with it, you don't have to pretend that they're right, but you try to see what's going on from their perspective. Why is it in their minds that they're justified in being so negative about someone? Why in their mind are they justified in being so difficult in a problem at church? That's perspective, taking their perspective, to see the world as somebody else sees it. That means you've got to put your own stuff aside for a little while and make space for theirs. Another one that's even harder, I think, is kind of what I alluded to, is staying out of judgment. Staying out of judgment. Now, you might be hearing things, as I said, that are wrong. As they tell you why they get so angry, you go, that's not right. But initially, you just receive that. You just listen to it. You respect it. And you can repeat it to them, in the act of listening. Don't judge it. There'll be time for that, and it may need to be judged, but not in that moment. Then another part of empathy is to recognize the emotion that the other person is feeling. Watch for it. Watch, as we've learned, for not only the things they say, but the way they say it, what their body is like, what their demeanor is like, what their face is like. Can you recognize this emotion? And can you not only name it, but name it in love? Can you be respectful of it? Can you say, I can't imagine how much that would have hurt. Or, I can see on your face what kind of damage that must have done. You might say, I just feel so badly for you that you've had to go through this. So it's to try to actually get in touch, not just so you can describe it clinically, but so that you're actually feeling something of what they feel. And then, as I was doing, you want to communicate that to them. You want to let them know that you really are listening. It doesn't do much good to understand if they don't know that you understand. Don't cheapen their feelings by being too quick. Oh, I can see that was really tough. And they think, you don't know how tough it was. The problem is, that if you have a scale, they're weighing this really heavy on a scale, and you're weighing it really light, because you might be thinking, well, if I went through that, it wouldn't bother me like it's bothering. I don't understand why this should bother anyone so much. But that's not the point. It doesn't matter if you think they ought to be bothered or not. That has nothing to do with it. You're not the person that gets to decide that. So we want to be able to express back to them what their feelings are and how hard those things must be, so that they understand we're really listening. When we do this, we're buying their trust. We're earning, would be a better word for it. We're earning their trust. And they're coming to trust that they can talk to us because we will take their feelings and their perspective seriously. Even if we disagree with it later, they'll know that they were heard. She said, Brené Brown says, empathy is a choice. It's a choice. It's not something either you have or you don't have. It's not some emotional reaction that you have. I told you earlier that I'm not naturally a very sympathetic person. So I have to kind of ask myself, what would a sympathetic person do? And try that. Empathy is a choice. If you can, you want to connect with something in yourself that relates to what they're feeling. You know, actors say that this is what they do. They read a part, even if the person is completely different from them, and they try to find a point of connection inwardly with that character. Well, in a way, that's what we do in counseling. Don't try to paint a silver lining around their troubles. We want to try to make things better, but that kind of a response doesn't usually work. It doesn't actually make things better. You don't go, oh, it's not that bad, or at least this didn't happen, and your counselee goes, oh, you're right. Man, I feel so much better now. That's not what happens. They just feel that it was cheapened. What makes things better is connection. Connection. When they feel like you have really listened and connected with them. Well, let me talk a little bit more about some other things that we can learn about empathy and listening. One that just came out of what we have talked about, you don't have to know how they feel in order to be empathetic. That's one good lesson. You don't have to know how they feel in order to be empathetic. Another is the listening skill that we have talked about. Use observation, restatement, and reaction to show sympathy. I can see how hard this was, and I've heard you say this and this and this. I understand this must have been a terribly painful time. Another thing sometimes you need to do to show empathy is clarify what's confusing. They tell you a story and you go, in your mind you're thinking, I don't really understand why this was such a big deal. You say, help me understand. For someone else, this incident wouldn't have mattered very much, but for you, it carries an enormous amount of meaning. It isn't clear to me why that is. Can you help me understand that? And let them tell you some more. Then you can go, oh, I can see now why you thought of it that way. That helps me. Another part is to look for what their story means. What's that embedded theology? Again, here's another very important one. When people are telling you their story, listen for the metaphors, the pictures, the stories that they tell. People speak in word pictures, in stories. They'll say, well, it was like this, or The scene I'll never forget is that, or I have dreams about this. Jason Cusick quotes James Bryan Smith, "When we have a significant experience, one that shapes it, we turn it into a story." We don't say, "I had a significant experience." We say, "I'll tell you what happened to me." We turn it into a story. So you listen for that story that paints the picture from their perspective. It might not be true. It might not be the real way things were, but that's what they see it to be. Listen especially for if they're missing grace. That's usually what happens in a story. You listen, and somewhere in this story they are missing the power of God's grace, and that's what you can show to them. You may hear people that are careless about righteousness, but they're a lot more frequently blind to grace. So help people understand the grace of God for their situation, His compassion, His tenderness, His forgiveness, His wisdom, His many, many chances that He gives us. People are like the man in the parable where he said, "I knew you were a hard man." They think God is like that. "I knew you were a hard man." God isn't like that. They think God demands more than He does. And they miss entirely what is most important to God. We naturally understand law. Did you know that? Everybody understands law. They may not keep it, but we all understand it. We ought to do this and we shouldn't do that. But grace is always a wonderful mystery. As I told you at the beginning, silence is often your best co-counselor. Just be quiet. Wait. Let people think. Let them process. If they get to the point where they feel like there's nothing left to say, then you can move on. Another thing, avoid interrupting. Avoid interrupting. Now sometimes you have to stop and go, wait now, who is so-and-so? Who is Mary in this story? I got confused. But as a rule, don't interrupt. Let them talk. One exception to that is sometimes people just kind of go off. They start telling you something that isn't relevant. You go, wait, let's just stay with this story for now till I get that figured out. Finally, when you're listening to a story, listen for what I call the pivot in a story. Where did that story turn? They're telling you something, and then there is a turning point. What was that? Explore that part. Or another picture I have for it is, you know, in a house, there are some walls that you can tear down and other walls that you can't. They're load-bearing walls. In this story, what holds it up? What's the essential thing that holds this story up? Is it their resentment? Is it that they weren't loved? What holds this story up?
TVS Seminary is a nonprofit project. Our joint effort will bring about the common purpose of making Christian education available around the world and developing good Christian servant leaders. You have a unique opportunity to partner in this effort through your prayer and/or financial support of TVS Ministry. For more information, please visit tvsseminary.com.
What are the load-bearing walls? What are the pivots on which the story turns? In our last lecture, we were thinking about empathy as part of listening, and we want to kind of wrap up that listening element by talking about how counselors handle themselves, we handle ourselves non-verbally. There are 5 simple things to remember about how we position ourselves physically in counseling. By the way, if possible, don't sit across a table from someone. Sit face to face if possible, because a table separates you emotionally as well as physically. So not over a desk if possible. In my office, if I have to sit for a long time, I have a rocking chair that's kind of comfortable, and I sit in that, and the other person sits about 3 feet away from me, and we can face each other. So there are these 5 simple things. The first one is face the person squarely, straight up, not side to side. Don't sit on a couch, face to face. Face the person squarely. That's simple enough. The second is maintain an open posture. I'm going to put my notes down for this. If you come to me for counseling and I'm sitting like this, that communicates to you that I am judgmental. I find it's just more comfortable to sit with my legs crossed. But when someone starts talking to you about earnest things, serious things, look what this says. This says something entirely different. This is what's called an open posture. This is a closed posture. So you want to sit squarely so they're across from you, and you want to have an open posture. All right? Then another thing, especially when important things are being said, when the person is starting to really share with you, is simply to do what I was doing just a minute ago, lean forward. You can't sit like that for a whole hour probably, but when things get more important, more serious, lean. Face squarely, open posture, lean in. Then maintain eye contact. I think that's really difficult because when I'm thinking, and probably when you're thinking, you tend to look off usually to the upper right. But when someone's talking, you want to keep looking at them. They can see when your eyes wander. They are thinking, I'm losing them. They're thinking, this must not be very important. So it takes discipline to say, I'm going to keep eye contact here. And it really does take discipline because my natural inclination is to look off in another direction, especially when I start to think about what I'm hearing, what I'm going to say next. When I start to think, the natural thing is your eyes look off in another direction. So keep eye contact. And finally, relax. Just physically relax. People might tell you difficult things. They might become angry or tense. And so their posture tightens up. If you can stay relaxed, that keeps the mood in the room a bit more relaxed. If you are tense, they will certainly be tense. If you're getting agitated and angry, then they will get that way too. So it's very important. Sometimes when people are really getting worked up, one of the things I will do is just touch them. Just a little touch. I can see how hard that is. Let's just be quiet for a minute, like that. So those are the counselor nonverbals. That's what that was. Nonverbals that counselors do. Can you remember those? Face the person squarely, maintain an open posture, lean in, keep eye contact, and relax.